Our topic, as we advertised today, the sign of wisdom or maturity. Maturity in the dunya and the deen. Not a lot of people understand, because the wisdom is different than maturity. Hikmah is totally different. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the hikmah, inshallah, and the wisdom, inshallah. But maturity is the lowest like the lowest level. But we need the maturity also, because this way it will help you to deal with this dunya in a peace way. Then I say there's 5 signs that you are getting mature in this dunya and in life and in deen. The first one is you start to not to be angry as you used to. Whatever used to bother you, and the same action that your kids or your wife or your neighbor used to do it 5 years ago. Now when they do it, you don't get angry. You know why? Because now you learn how to deal with people and to see people who they are. And the second thing is you started to forgive more than you used to. The same mistake that your son or your wife or your cousin do, he's still doing it. But now you deal with it different. You just, when you, like 5 years ago, you would get angry and boiling and start scream. And now you start to deal with it and you have forgiveness. Why? Because you seeking the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you're becoming more mature. You started to understand people the way they are. Because you're not a perfect person. And you know that the people around you, they're not perfect. And you're trying to start to accept them the way they are. This is part of maturity. And also maturity, you started to not waste your time with people who's toxic. That they waste your time and energy and they sucking your energy. And you recognize that. Then you start to invest your time wisely. And you know that these people are not healthy for you and your brain and your deen. Then you start to choose more carefully who's people around you. And you start to not need, the need that you used to have, the urge of things of dunya started to go down. You felt like you don't need anything anymore. You don't need these people around you anymore. Because you started to depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the maturity on deen. You start to understand how the life is. Start to learn the game of this dunya. أصبحت راضي. You become comfort in your situation. This big dream and accomplish that you were just, driving crazy, you start saying, what Allah wrote, I did my best. I'm trying for 5 years, 10 years to do it. It's not working. Then you know what? Maybe the qada Allah. That's where you reach people say, you surrender? This is what I'm talking about, surrender. And that's the point. Yes, people will think that you surrender, but you're not surrendered. You're surrendered to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what I'm bringing to you today. Long time ago, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, taking Sittina Hajar alayhi salam, and taking his own son Ismail, al-Radi'a, the baby, and take them to Mecca, desert. No life, no people, no nothing. And leave them with just the sufficient food for barely 3 or 4 days or 5 days. Sign of maturity in dunya and deen. And he was old, and he was dying for a baby. And people say, some people are not that knowledge, and they're saying was the wish of Sarah, and she forced him to do that because she was jealous from Hajar. But what happened is, was the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It matched the wish of Sarah. That's what happened. But when he take her there, now we are facing Hajar. She's looking at what she have, and she looking to her son and looking to the area that her husband dropped her, and she said to him, are you leaving us here? He didn't even answer. He didn't even turn his head to her. And he kept walking. And she said to him, are you leaving us here? You're leaving me and your son here in the desert? He didn't answer. Then she told him, أَأَمَرَكَ اللَّهُ بِهَذَا? Did Allah order you that? That moment he turned around and he told her, yes, Allah ordered me that. Now, يا إخواني, الشاهد على هذا, the story behind this and the lesson behind it, that Ibrahim surrendered to the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now we are turning the camera to Hajar. What did she do? She said, آمنت بالله. I left it to Allah. If this was the order of Allah, لن يضيعنا Allah. Allah will not hurt me and my son. Go. And the sabab, you are a reason, not the cause of everything. Allah puts you as a reason. Go. Leave. لن يضيعنا Allah. Now listen to me, ya ikhwani. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered. Ibrahim obeyed the order of Allah and then he made the dua. Hajar surrendered to Allah and obey her husband, taking care of her son by the sa'i bayna safa wal marwa. Meaning, she didn't say, Allah will save me and my son, I'm going to sit down here. She stand up after the few days, food is done, water is done. Now what I'm doing? Should I cuss about my husband and what he did to me? Should I go to the court and, strain order on him? And should I go for custody or should I go for, what? She started to make sa'i, safa wal marwa, run to there to see if she can get some water or some people or anything like that. But then she remembered she left her son and maybe a fox come and eat him. Then she run back to him and then she go to the safa al marwa 7 times. Then she surrendered to Allah, obedient to her husband, and then she make sa'i for her son to take care of him. And she went to Safa or Marwa, but she was so working hard and tired. And she didn't find the solution in the Safa and the Marwa. The faraq of Allah came between the foot of Ismail alayhi salam. And this is the message for all of us. We are running between the Safa and the Marwa in our dunya, but the solution is under your feet. The fear of Hajar and the loneliness of Hajar didn't go against obedient to her husband and believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He will not leave her and abandon her. If her husband abandoned her, Allah will never abandon her. Then Mashi'atullah wal hikmah al-ilahiyya, and the wisdom behind everything in this dunya, ya akhwan. The wisdom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought you today in Pacific Day to listen to this khutbah. We are searching for maturity in this dunya. Some people get the maturity early, some people get it late. And we will read about the Quran, what He say about maturity. But what are you going to do when you learn that? It's a beautiful khutbah, but should be in action. You take it and practice it, inshallah. Ibrahim alayhi salam make a beautiful dua. Yes, he left his wife and his son. But then he make dua that the ummah benefit from this dua until today. And Hajar obedient to her husband and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought water under the foot of Ismail, that we are drinking this water until today. Then Ibrahim alayhi salam said, رَبَّنَا إِنِّي أَسْكَنْتُ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ عِنْدَ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ فَاجْعَلْ أَفْئِدَةً مِنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوَى إِلَيْهِمْ وَارْزُقْهُمْ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْكُرُونَ. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala istajaba lidu'a Ibrahim alayhi salam. Then you have to understand, nothing will happen in this dunya without the permission of Allah and without asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Ibrahim, he said, I know the condition of the place that I left my kids. But I want this place to bring the people to this place and bring the rizq to this place and make them make salah. And until today, by the da'wah of Ibrahim, Mecca, as you see, subhanallah. الشاهد هنا يا إخواني that we need to learn, even if you didn't find the result that you want in this dunya, and if everybody abandon you, your own son, your own wife, your own husband, whatever it is, Allah will never abandon us. اعلم, you have to be knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala لا يضيع أجر من أحسن عملا. Allah will not abandon you ever as long as you are obedient to Allah and no shirk. Come to this hadith that came from Jibreel alayhi salam from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Jibreel came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and he told him, Ya Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, ما من عبد مات من أمتك يا محمد. If any abd, in any slave from Ummat Muhammad alayhi salam died and doesn't have a partner with Allah, لا يشرك بالله شيئا أدخله الله الجنة. Hadith. This is the dua. This is Jibreel come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to tell Muhammad a message from Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from Ummat Muhammad, whoever died and he say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put him in Jannah. Then the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was so excited that he went and told the Sahaba this beautiful message. Then Abu Zarr al-Ghaffari was in the majlis. One Sahabi. He's a righteous man. He worked hard for Jannah. He obeyed Rasulullah. He obeyed Allah. It didn't make sense. It didn't click in his mind. Because he's a human being. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, وَإِن زَنَا وَإِن سَرَقْ. Even if he fornicate and he steal. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam looked at him and he said to him, وَإِن زَنَا وَإِن سَرَقْ. Even if he steal and if he fornicate. Abu Zarr didn't get it. He didn't get it. He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, وَإِن زَنَا وَإِن سَرَقْ. He confirmed it. Are you sure? Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, وَإِن زَنَا وَإِن سَرَقْ رَغْمَ أَنْفِ أَبِي زَرْ. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him Jannah even if Abu Zarr doesn't get it. Or doesn't accept it. رغم أنفي. You know, like even Abu Zarr is not agreeing about it. This is not an invitation for doing the haram. This is invitation to have no shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is when you understand what's the dunya is tempting you. But the word of shirk, ya ikhwani, this is huge. The message that Jibreel came and said, لا يشرك بالله شيئا, there is no association with Allah, meaning your family not a part of that. They don't take you from your salah, don't take you from iman. Your job, your TV, everything in this dunya cannot be, everything have to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala come first. Then another sahabi came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said to him, Ya Rasulullah, متى الساعة? When is the day of judgment? Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَيْحَكْ, what's wrong with you? Do you know what you're asking? Do you know what you're asking? He said to me, Ya Rasulullah, I'm asking for the day of judgment. Like people text me and said, give us a khutbah about day of judgment. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, ماذا أعددت لها? What did you prepare for that? Do you know what he's talking about? What did you prepare for it? Then he said to me, Ya Rasulullah, I didn't prepare nothing. I didn't make so much salah, I didn't make siyam, I didn't make zakah. But wallahi, all what I did, I love you and I love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, أنت مع من أحببت. You are with whom you love. Even though that you didn't make the qiyam and you didn't make the salah and you didn't make the khutbah, but you love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are with Allah and you are with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inshallah. But my question is, do you love him? Or do you love something else? هل أنت عبد الله أم عبد الدولار? Are you the servant of Allah or you are the servant of the dollar? One brother here said to me, every time you shake my hand, you ask me for a check. I said to him, I'm not asking the check for me. I'm asking the check for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And before me was the best mankind in this earth. He asked the same thing. He said, Man da alladhi yuqridu Allah qardan hasana? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the better than me and you. He said, who will lend Allah? Talking about lending Allah? Oh, Allah is not in need of you. Then if Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did it, then I will do it. But the love of Allah and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then who is your Habib? Rasulullah. Who is your Shafi'? Rasulullah. Who is Rafiqak fil Jannah? Rasulullah. One Sahabi came out and he was lost in his mind. And when Rasulullah ﷺ saw him and he said to him, I didn't see you for a couple of days, what's wrong with you? He said to him, and he saw him losing his weight and his face was yellowish. And he said, what's wrong with you? Are you sick? He said to him, La badan wala ma. No, not badan, physically, no. But mentally, I'm screwed up. He said to him, why? He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, inni uhibbuk. I love you so much. And when I go home, the only thing I'm concerned, then when I die and I enter Jannah, he's not worried about that part. Subhanallah. When I die and I enter Jannah, I'm not in the level of you, Ya Rasulullah. You're going to be in the level with the Siddiqeen wal Anbiya, and you're going to be the neighbor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and who I am. There is degree, ya akhwana, there is first class and second class and third class and fourth class, 5-star, hotel, luxury places, and there is a motel. Then you're going to be in the motel, subhanallah, and some people will be in the luxury palace. the neighbor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then the man was like sick to his stomach. He's like, where I'm going to be? In Motel 8? What is going on? Then he said, Ya Rasulullah, I am not in your level of deen. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Anta ma'a man ahbabt, you are with who you love in the dunya. Even if you don't do his amal, even if you are not in the level of his iman and ilm and deen, but you are in the love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah. Ya Allah. Then we need to know who we love this dunya. And we need to learn. In Surah Al-Ahqaf, ayah number 15 and number 16, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala verified the maturity in this dunya. And what we need to do when we reach this age. In this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, He said, حتى إذا بلغ أشده وبلغ 40 سنة قال ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وأصلح لي في ذريتي إني تبت إليك وإني من المسلمين. في هذه السورة, في هذه الآية, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, hey عبدي, when you reach the age 40, now you have to stand up and make shukr to me and make zikr to me. Ibn Kathir said, ashuddahu means 33. When you knock the door of 33, this is ashuddahu. Now when you reach 40, now you are walking 40 years to go to the mountain. Imagine the mountain, how high it is. Now you reach the mountain after 40 years of walking. Imagine how high this mountain is. فإذا أصلحت, if you أصلحت من نفسك, if you change who you are, now Ibn Kathir said this is a point of going down now. Because you reach the mountain, age 40. Now when you reach the mountain age 40, you're going to start to go down. Going down depends on your way of understanding the dunya. You can go down slowly and soft and smooth and everything nice. And how you do that? By tawbah. Age 40, tawbah, istighfar, zikr, ilm, rushd, suhbah, giving. Why? Because you know you're going down. Now if you don't do that, going down is going to be very hard. You know, from this high, if you fall down, it's going to be very hurt. It will hurt you so much. Then you have to prepare yourself to go down after the 40s. The journey goes up and goes down. وَأَعْمَارَ أُمَّتِي مِنْ بَيْنِ السِّتِّينِ وَالسَّبْعِينَ. And the age of my ummah, that's what Rasulullah ﷺ said, between 60 and 70. Some people pass that, not the majority, ya ikhwan. Then the khutbah today was majorly talking about maturity in the dunya and the deen. I give you some characteristic, but then I show you what the Quran said. Then whoever reached this 40, you have to start ibadah, you start to knowledge, and you know that you are not going high, you're going down. Signs of wisdom, signs of aging, signs of mind, and also getting closer to your destiny. Is your destiny will be safe, or you're going to go and knock your head when you're going down?